So, you have awoken.
The two prone dragons turned to see the Hermit standing nearby. With a low grunt, Spyro forced himself to stand on trembling legs. Cynder followed suit, hovering protectively close to him.
I thought I recognized where we were. I think you owe Cynder an apology.
Whatever for, young dragon?
You said Cynder would return to Malefor's side, that she was doomed to return to the darkness.
Did she not? Did the Dark Master not corrupt her once again?
Yes, but she broke free on her own. She resisted him.
All because of one thing no one could foresee being possible.
That being?
The Hermit paused, then erupted into crazed cackles. Spyro and Cynder exchanged wary glances as his laughter echoed around the gorge. Once his mirth faded, the Hermit knelt and met Spyro's firm gaze head-on.
Tell me, since you both defied your fates, what do you think your futures have in store?
The question caught the two dragons off guard. The only life they'd ever known was centered around the evil that had now been vanquished. Once again, their eyes locked, though all that was conveyed this time was uncertainty.
Our future will be whatever we want it to be. With Malefor gone, we're both finally free.
Do you think so? Just because the Dark Master has been vanquished doesn't mean all evil is gone. Malefor's will continues in those that serve him.
Then we'll handle them like we did with Malefor. There's no one the two of us can't take. Beating Malefor proved that.
Be careful of your overconfidence, young dragon, for it may be your downfall. Malefor highly underestimated you, even in his weakened state. Do not rely on your adversaries doing the same.
Spyro hesitated, brows furrowing. He hadn't considered Malefor wasn't at his peak in power during their fight. With how much energy it had taken Spyro to repair the planet, he could only imagine the toll it took on Malefor to resurrect the Destroyer. He couldn't have been at full power after that. Yet, the battle had been so close. Cynder noted a change in her companion's demeanour. She light-heartedly tapped her wing against his side and changed the subject.
Hey Spyro, do you know how to get to the White Isle?
Spyro snapped out of the dark tunnel his mind was racing down and looked to Cynder.
The White Isle? Yeah, Sparks and I went there before the Night of Eternal Darkness. Why?
Right before you woke up, the Chronicler spoke to me in my dreams. He says he has something to show us.
I think I can lead us there. If the Chronicler is summoning us, it must be important.
Do you think you can fly?
Spyro's wings unfurled from their resting positions on his back, flexing out. He gave a few experimental flaps before deciding.
Yeah, I should be fine.
Okay, we should get going then. We can't thank you enough.
Save your breath, Black Dragon. I only intended to repay my debts.
Though Cynder wanted to reply, she knew the Hermit had no desire for further conversation. The two dragons watched as the grey cheetah returned to his small home in the canyon wall. Once he was gone from sight, the pair turned towards the edge of the cliff and looked down at the raging river below. Spyro stretched, his wings preparing for flight. Cynder eyed him nervously.
You're sure you're alright?
I'm fine. Just a little sore. I should at least be able to make it to the coast by dusk. After a night of rest, we should be able to reach the White Isles by tomorrow evening.
Do you really need more sleep?
Spyro chuckled. With an affirmative nod, he leapt off the cliff and glided down the canyon with Cynder just behind. They flew effortlessly between the moss-covered walls and over the waterfall, entering the Valley of Avalar once again. The two dragons circled around the valley, basking in the peace it brought.
It's different when we don't have to worry about grublins.
It's beautiful. I wish we could enjoy it longer.
We'll come back someday. I'm sure Hunter would be happy to see us again.
And maybe Chief Prowess will be a better host next time.
To get to the Chronicle, we should start flying west towards the Wall of Souls. From there, I should be able to get us to the White Isle.
I was hoping to never see that horrid place again.
Me neither, but it's the best reference point I can think of.
If you say so.
After completing one more lap around the valley, Cynder turned to Spyro with a mischievous smirk.
Last one to the coast is a smelly frogweed.
Oh, you're on!
With a carefree laugh, Cynder began west and flew as fast as she could, with Spyro following right on her heels, beginning their new journey.
So, your throne has become your prison.
Down inside the depths of the volcano, where the ruins of Malefor's lair sat strewn around the vast space, was where a large black dragon discovered the crystal imprisoning the Dark Master.
However you ended up there, the magic holding you is too powerful for me to break. For now, it would seem you are stuck here.
The dragon flew powerfully back to the surface and turned its attention down the volcano towards the city of Wolfang. It had only been a couple of weeks, but repairs to the city were moving rapidly. With Malefor sealed away, his magic that suspended parts of the capital vanished, and the architects had moved quickly to reclaim the once lost part of their home.
Let them waste their time on meaningless repairs. It will not matter for what comes next.
The black dragon took to the sky, not wanting to risk being seen by any potential scouting parties. He made his way around the mountain and flew past the coastline.
But first, I shall reclaim what I have lost.
Any second now.
You said that an hour ago.
After a well-rested night, Spyro and Cynder had set off to continue their journey to the White Isle. Despite flying for most of the day, the two still hadn't located the continent that the World of Souls resided on. They passed many islands during their journey, but none hosted what they were searching for. It had now been over an hour of flying since the last patch of land they passed, and the sun was on the verge of setting.
We should have reached the mainland by now.
How about we find an island and get some rest? We're about to lose the sun.
But we don't even know where we are. We could be getting close.
Spyro, we need to rest. We can continue first thing in the morning. The Chronicler's not going anywhere.
Spyro wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. His wings were becoming heavier with each flap, and he could feel his speed decreasing.
Okay, next island we see.
Cynder gave him a reassuring smile, but before she was able to say anything, an ear-piercing roar sounded from above. The two dragons barely had any time to react as a large, dark figure drove down towards them. Spyro attempted to avoid it, but the unknown figure moved too swiftly and struck the purple dragon with its tail.
Spyro!
Spyro gasped for air as the wind was knocked from his lungs. He began falling from the sky, and before Cynder could dive after him, their attacker flew in front of her, blocking her path. Cynder gasped sharply when she saw the face of their assailant.
It can't be.
Did you really think I wouldn't find you, Cynder? It is time for you to come home.
No, I'll never go back. I'll never fight by your side again.
That wasn't a request.
Before the large dragon could say any more, Cynder unleashed a fierce shockwave at her adversary. He retaliated with his own shockwave, vastly overpowering Cynder's. The dragoness had no time to react, and was struck by the attack, her body seizing up and falling towards the ocean below.
All too easy.
Don't you dare touch her!
The dragon stopped his descent and turned to face the voice. Spyro was flying towards him as quickly as he could. He attempted to perform a comet's dash, but all Spyro could muster were small flames that kept extinguishing.
Having trouble with your fire, Spyro? Did the Dark Master weaken you that much?
Spyro growled and changed his attack to a lightning shock. But once again, he could only manage small sparks.
What's wrong with me?
You have overexerted yourself, young dragon. Your powers have gone to sleep. Just as you will now.
Before Spyro could react, the black dragon whirled around, striking Spyro across the head with his tail. Spyro once again fell towards the ocean, knocked unconscious. The aggressor returned to his goal, with the interruption dealt with.
Now, where was I?
Scanning the skies below, Cynder was nowhere to be found. Because of how high they were flying, she could not have hit the ocean yet. He scoured the waves for any sign of her. To get a better look, the large dragon descended towards the ocean. Before he could get too far, he was struck by a powerful fireball. A low growl rumbled in his throat as he spun to face his attacker, looking directly at the setting sun. Against the blinding light, he could barely make out the silhouette of a large dragon.
And who might you be?
Trying to get a better view of the newcomer, the black dragon maneuvered out of the path of the sun. Once he could see clearly, he noticed that while his adversary did look like a dragon, it had a strange glow to it.
Ah, an elemental dragon. So the Chronicler has decided to interfere.
As the glowing orange beast approached, it unleashed a stream of fire from its maw. The black dragon retaliated with a stream of dark fire. The two attacks collided, but it didn't take long for the black dragon to overpower the newcomer's attack. Seeking to avoid taking any significant damage, the elemental dragon's scales suddenly tinted yellow, rendering the fire useless.
Pesky Bing, I have no patience for this!
In an instant, the black dragon moved swiftly behind the elemental dragon and unleashed a powerful red lightning bolt, striking his foe directly on the back. The elemental dragon roared loudly and attempted to shift its colour once more, this time to a deep blue. It turned to face its enemy, but was immediately met with an icicle piercing its chest. Having sustained too much damage, the elemental dragon suddenly shattered into small pieces of ice that fell a short distance before evaporating. The victorious black dragon quickly turned its attention to the ocean below, trying in vain to locate Spyro or Cynder. To his dismay, he couldn't see either of them, despite how calm the ocean was. He tucked his wings in and dove down to get a closer look, but still couldn't see any sign of them. Anger overtook his face, and a mighty roar accompanied the black fire he launched into the sky.
You will not hide for long, Cynder!
Spyro heaved as he jolted awake, scrambling to jump back into action, only to collapse. He weakly struggled again, but his body was far too exhausted for the intense pressure he was putting on himself. His head was throbbing, and his vision was fuzzy and dark. He took fast, shallow breaths, his body still on the defense. Once he realized he was on solid ground, he began to relax. As his vision began to clear up, he could see a blurry blue light in front of him. He blinked a few times, and the light began to form into a familiar shape. It was a giant hourglass standing in the center of a large circular room, filled with countless books.
I'm in the Celestial Caves? How did we...
The purple dragon once again jumped when he realized that Cynder was nowhere to be seen. Frantically, he searched the room for any sign of her, his fear rising.
Cynder!
Spyro?
Spyro exhaled heavily when he saw his companion walk around the hourglass towards him.
Thank the ancestors. I was afraid.
It's okay, Spyro. We're both safe. Are you okay?
Not really. My whole body aches. I don't know if I can stand up right now.
I'm sorry. We were completely taken by surprise.
Who even was that? Why did he attack us?
I'll answer everything later, but right now the Chronicler wants to see you. He has something to show you.
Okay. Where is he?
He's preparing a room for you to recover in. He asked me to bring you to him.
Spyro nodded, and with Cynder's help, managed to rise to his feet and walk with her guidance as they approached the door on the opposite end of the room. It opened to reveal a long hallway with multiple doors on both ends. The one closest to them on the left was open, and Cynder led Spyro towards it.
Young dragon, you never cease to amaze me.
There was something about this voice that took Spyro by surprise. It did not belong to the chronicler he knew. He looked at Cynder, who was smiling tearily. She motioned for him to go inside, stepping back. Spyro limped around the doorway and saw a large dragon with his back towards him. He had familiar grey scales and adorned the same robe the chronicler had previously. But something was different. The large dragon slowly turned, and Spyro's legs nearly gave out at the sight. Looking down at him was not the chronicler he knew, but Ignitus. Despite his change in colour and apparel, Spyro knew his face instantly. Tears sprung rapidly to his eyes.
Ignitus?
Spyro, oh, it is so good to see you again.
Disregarding his pain, Spyro ran forward and embraced the Elder Dragon with everything he had. Ignitus returned the gesture and held Spyro tightly. Tears ran down the purple dragon's face, dampering Ignitus's dusty silver scales.
Ignitus...
Spyro's eyelids began to droop, exhaustion catching back up to him. His body felt heavy, and he did not have the strength to hold himself up. Ignitus's gentle hold supported him, as Spyro went limp.
It's all right, young dragon. Get some more sleep. I'll be here when you awaken.
All the purple dragon could do was nod in reply, as he closed his eyes. Despite how many questions he had, Spyro was too weak to ask them. Ignitus carefully lifted Spyro onto the circular bed, placing him in the center. Spyro instinctively curled himself up, falling into a deep sleep. Ignitus exited the room, with Cynder right behind, the large door quietly closing.